Right, so a couple of weeks ago, we saw the rising star Ben Whittaker back in the ring when he took on relatively unknown light heavyweight prospect Leon Williams. And many boxing fans were critical of the display that we saw from Ben Whittaker, some of which have even gone as far to state that Ben Whittaker was exposed. Now, I actually watched the fight up close and live on the night. I was there, so was Brian. He managed to get us a couple of ringside seats, so perks of the job. But I haven't actually watched it back since, so let's have a little look at the highlights and see whether it looks different on the TV cameras as to how it looked from my view ringside in the arena on the night. Yeah, so Ben Whittaker starting off fast, first round, pinning Williams on the ropes. But Williams is showing good movement, good defense. He knows where the shots are coming from, you know. You see one side of his body isn't completely protected, but that's because he knows the shots are going to the other side of his body. When he needs to get his hand up, he'll get his hand up. And the first thing that I'm really taking away from this, although we're seeing Ben Whittaker pinning Williams and keeping him on the ropes, although he's throwing back there and then, little dance from Ben Whittaker. But the first thing that I'm really taking from seeing this again, and it's the same that I felt on the night, is that Williams is obviously just a lot better than we're giving him credit for. Even when you look at him letting go of his shots there, okay, he's not Ben Whittaker levels, an Olympian, by the way, but he's still a very decent and capable fighter. And sometimes this happens on the way up, man. Sometimes you'll match guys up a little bit harder maybe than you intended, and even that being said, you can see there, it's Ben Whittaker who's doing the most of the work. I think that some people were just surprised that when you see a fighter like Ben Whittaker and he pins his opponent on the ropes and he's letting shots go, you're just waiting for the man that is pinned on the ropes to go down, to crumble under the pressure. And when you see a guy like Leon Williams who doesn't crumble under the pressure, it makes you straight away start to think, oh, okay, is it just hype around Ben Whittaker? But as I say, being there live on the night, I was very confident that Ben Whittaker was confident, comfortable, and having fun in there, really, you know. It is the sort of highest standard we've seen him in there with. Good shot there from Whittaker, right hand. But Williams looking for, you know, the little uppercuts on the inside. Ben Whittaker talking to the corner there, telling them to be quiet. I was literally right by this corner, and I remember they were shouting. They were shouting to encourage Leon Williams, you know, that he doesn't want it, Ben Whittaker, and he doesn't like that pressure, but Ben Whittaker was very firm in telling the corner he does, in fact, like the pressure, and he does, in fact, feel comfortable in there with a guy like Leon Williams, who, as I say, is clearly better than we thought. There you go, the little signature tap on the head there. And from watching this here, I get this is highlights, but look, you know, they've been fair to both fighters with it. It's how I saw the whole fight, man. It was sort of 90% Ben Whittaker, and Williams was showing resistance here and there. Showing a lot more elusiveness than Whittaker's former opponents, you know. Williams was a man that was able to ride shots, to catch shots, to sometimes counter with his own. But realistically, we're 5 rounds into these highlights by now, and we're still not seeing anything sustained being landed on Ben Whittaker. Yes, the man in front of Whittaker is offering a lot more resistance than we're used to seeing. But just look at that. Whittaker's staying in the pocket here and trading with him, and Williams goes flying there. Would have liked to have seen that one landing. And seen Ben Whittaker's chin tested. We saw it once in this fight, I believe. But as I say, Leon Williams not looking to force the fight, more just looking to shell up, counter when he can. And obviously a wide points victory in the end for Ben Whittaker in this one. Massive respect to his opponent. Now, for me to watch that in hindsight, understanding that Ben Whittaker came under a lot of criticism for this performance is a bit of a head scratcher, to be honest. I mean, look at that fight. Look at the opponent for a start. Leon Williams, unheard of, unknown, doesn't necessarily mean unable. And as I say, this fella is very much able. Because I do genuinely believe that time will be the best storyteller with Leon Williams. If he ended up in his career going on to box for an English title, for a British title, it would not surprise me at all. And as I said before, sometimes on the way up, you match these prospects with guys like Leon Williams, who you believe will probably be an easier touch than they are. I mean, all you got to do is look at Leon Williams' box rec to see that he actually actually lost to a journeyman before. So because of that, Ben Whittaker's team have probably looked at that and they've probably thought, you know what, he's going to, offer us a little bit of resistance, a couple of rounds, but we should be able to get to him. We should be able to be dominant over him. And let's not forget that he was dominant over Leon Williams. But as I say, you can match prospects up too hard sometimes on the way up. We see it time in, time out, man. I mean, Daniel Dubois, do you remember when he fought Richard Lartey? No way did they believe that they were sending their heavyweight prospect, who they had great hopes for and were pretty much trying to build up at that time. They would not have sent him in with a guy like Richard Lartey had they have known what a guy like Richard Lartey was coming with before that fight. And you look at Leon Williams on BoxRec, he's ranked 22 in Britain. I've had a look at the names above him and there's a lot of guys in there that I would fancy him against with a good chance. So definitely way better than Ben Whittaker would have thought. Whenever we have a hot prospect coming up and gaining the attention of fight fans, boxing fans are very quick to diminish their abilities as soon as they're tested or as soon as they're taking the distance in a fight. And I just don't believe that's right, Going to points with a tough, durable opponent does not mean that you've been exposed and that you're not going to reach world level in the future. And let's be honest, as crafty as Williams was, he didn't put a dent in Ben Whittaker. He didn't land more than one unanswered shot. Ben Whittaker chose to stay in the pocket with him for most of the fight, and those are not signs that a fighter, for me at least, is in any sort of danger or feels uncomfortable or out of their depth or is lacking confidence. To be honest, I think the amount of criticism that we saw levelled at Ben Whittaker comes down to the fact that he didn't really showboat in the later rounds like he had at the start of the fight. And if Ben Whittaker goes to British, European or world level and then doesn't showboat in those fights, then that's okay too. Ben Whittaker has said that he doesn't go in the ring looking to showboat. More so, it's just part of his boxing style. And to an extent, I believe him. The same way that you have a split second to think about the right hand you're going to counter your opponent with or the left hook you're going to counter your opponent with, you also have that same split second to think about your defensive movement when you're dodging or moving out the way of a punch. And I do think that in terms of how Ben Whittaker will defend himself against punches in a flashy style is something that is a decision, I should say, that is made in those split seconds. However, Ben Whittaker will very much enter a boxing ring, in my opinion, knowing that he is going to put on a show. But you may ask, why does Ben Whittaker need to put on this sort of show every time he steps in the ring? And I will tell you the answer to that. The reason why is because it is a business strategy. I'm going to break this one down very, very simply for you. Mike Tyson, for example, he was building a lot of hype in his early career because he was knocking everybody out. But not every single fighter is able to do that. Some fighters will opt for trash talking, fancy outfits, elaborate ring walks, or some will just let their boxing do the talking. But any fighter with half a brain in their head knows that you need to do something. You need to make people feel some sort of way about you. They don't need to love you, but if they don't love you, they do need to hate you. You can't be in the middle. You need to be Marmite as a boxer. Because off the top of my head, you have guys in the same weight division as Ben Whittaker, like Lyndon Arthur, Craig Spider Richards, Dan Aziz, who didn't do any of these sort of tactics on the way up. And when they were in their 7th fight, they had nowhere near the amount of attention on them as Ben Whittaker does. Even leading names in the division on the domestic scene, like Joshua Buatsi and Anthony Yard, they may have been fighting on undercards that were getting a lot of eyeballs because of the promoters they were with. But even these guys were not doing anything on the same level as what Ben Whittaker has. I mean, you've only got to look at the social media followings of these guys. Yard and Buatsi combined have 380,000 followers on Instagram. Ben Whittaker, 7 fights in, has 1.4 million followers on Instagram. And all of this following, all of the clamour to see Ben Whittaker perform is a direct result of the flashy moves and the showboating that you've seen from him so far. So despite the fact that we may not then see him showboat when he goes on to world level or progresses through the levels, he'll be higher on the cards that he gets booked for. He'll be getting paid more for those fights than his peers would for fights of similar levels. He'll be getting brand deals. He will be being asked to be the face of certain companies or businesses because of the profile that he has gained for himself. And all of this means that by the time that you, me, and the rest of the boxing public find out how good Ben Whittaker really is, he will have made a whole lot of money. A lot more than he would have done had he have not chosen the specific career path that he seems to have chosen. What I suppose I'm trying to say is that I don't really understand the reaction from boxing fans who think that unless Ben Whittaker is able to tap Bivol or Beterbiev on the head, he shouldn't be doing it to these guys on the way up. Boxing is entertainment and a brutal form of it at that. And whether you like the entertainment on display or not, the important thing is that you watch it. When I was at the O2 the other day, right, there was an undercard fight before the Ben Whittaker fight, and we were in the backstage bar and we were all having a drink, and it was filling out, right? There was a queue for the bar, and all of a sudden the bar empties. Everyone runs towards the exit and goes to find their seats. And why was that? Because Ben Whittaker was about to ring walk. This is a guy 7-0, a prospect fighting a guy who's area level at the moment, no one knows about. And I'm having a look around, and in comparison to the fight that I have been watching before, the arena all of a sudden for Ben Whittaker's fight seems to have doubled in capacity. Everyone has come away from the bar and is back to their seats ready to watch this boy box. That is the power of marketing, ladies and gentlemen, and what selling yourself in the right way can do for your profile. And by the way, if you're doubtful that Ben Whittaker will be able to do this level of showboating against higher level opposition, then that's fair enough. Maybe you're right. But if you're doubtful that Ben Whittaker can beat higher level opposition, you clearly haven't been watching Ben Whittaker. Ben Whittaker has wins over the likes of Zach Chelly, Willie Hutchinson, Jordan Reynolds as an amateur. He also got to an Olympic final where a lot of people felt that he could have got the decision and therefore won the gold medal. A lot of people watching this would have seen the sparring footage of Ben Whittaker and Felix Cash. Now, Felix Cash obviously operates at middleweight, but he's a big middleweight. One that would definitely end up at super middleweight. Where is Felix Cash, by the way? But either way, what I'm saying is Felix Cash is a very good fighter. And when you look at how Ben Whittaker was dealing with him in sparring, I don't honestly believe that there's anyone who can seriously tell me that Ben Whittaker is not going to go on to at least British level, European level. I just don't think that a lot of people are realising how good this boy is. Callum Johnson, Callum Smith, Joshua Buatsi, Anthony Yard never made beating journeyman look this entertaining on the way up. And the fact Ben Whittaker is doing it is the reason why people now, after 7 fights, are talking about seeing him in with world champions. That just doesn't happen. And I don't really see what the rush is, whether they're aging or not. I feel sorry for any light heavyweight in the division that has Bivol and Beterbiev. So if you're Ben Whittaker, carry on doing what you're doing, man. Build your profile and keep the hype going. I am loving watching Ben Whittaker's journey so far, way more than I would be watching any other prospect who isn't going down this route and doing what Ben Whittaker is doing. So, do I want to see him stepped up? Yes, by the end of this year, I would love to see Ben Whittaker going in there with some English level guys, maybe even British title. That'd be something I'd be very, very excited to see. And then by next year, let's start to see him against the likes of a Craig Spider Richards, a Dan Aziz, and ultimately, maybe, just maybe, we will see him in there with some of the other British light heavyweights in the future, like a Joshua Buatsi, like an Anthony Yard. But in the meantime, I can guarantee you that the ride will be fun while it happens. People, thank you very much for making it round to the end of another video. If you are not already subscribed to the channel, that helps me massively. What helps me even more is if that you could hit the like button right now, and I will see you all in the next one.